What is up, guys? Hope this goes well. We want to start doing our videos again. We were running into trouble previously just with the lag time, the screen quality, and I want to be able to share my screen here so I can actually show the written breakdown. So that's what we're going to try to do. See a couple of you in here already. Thanks for joining. Yeah, I just don't know how to share my screen. Son of a bitch. All right, so if anyone has any recommendations on streaming software or anything, please let me know. I was hoping that the YouTube Go live stream would work. Let me give some quick breakdowns here for the folks that are joining. Excited about this card. I hate these weeks off. This is kind of a less exciting card, especially when we got UFC 280 right around the corner with just incredible matchups top to bottom, but looking to hit some parlays this week and have a good fun week as we get ready for UFC 280. I'll mention real quickly, a lot of folks are excited about the Survivor Series starting a new season. It's something we do to give away a big prize. The prize is usually $300 or $400. It depends how long the contest lasts. Basically, every week you're sending in one pick. If you're right, you advance to the next week. If you're out, you're out, and you have to wait for the next season. So we've had folks that have been just itching to get back in, excited to start back up, and this is the week. October 15th, Grasso versus Araujo is the opportunity to get back in. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait for the next time. So it's really fun. Similar to NFL, if you've ever done a Survivor Series in NFL where you pick one pick every week, but it's with UFC, and it's really exciting. And folks made it so far last time, and then they get unlucky with, Sumaderji losing or something. But it's just incredibly cool. So this is your opportunity to get in. Hit us up on Instagram with any questions. All right. So Grasso versus Araujo is a tough one. They're both studs. Really excited about this matchup. Araujo's 35 years old and has a tendency to slow down. She doesn't quit or just give up or get finished, but she slows down in the third round. Her last fight seemed a little bit better there. She was able to overcome the Andrea Lee takedowns in round one, and she was able to win the second and third rounds, which that was a great sign for Vivi. Grasso has great cardio. She was known as just a crisp boxer, fast hands, but her ground game's evolving. We can't get too carried away because of her finishing JoJo Wood, but, she just is continuing to round out her skill set. She was able to sweep Macy Barber when Macy was on top. Even her Carla Esparza loss was pretty respectable. So, the popular pick for all the cappers this week is Grasso, specifically because of her cardio. So if you buy into that narrative, if you think Vivi could get out to an early lead and then fade, I like the Grasso decision prop. I like Grasso round 5 finish props. And I think a really great idea here is to live bet Grasso after Vivi potentially wins round 1 and maybe 2 as well. And then Grasso starts to turn it on the second half of the fight. We might get some really good live odds on Grasso there. All right, we got Kai, an LFA fighter in the chat. Kai, thanks for being here. Love you. Appreciate you. Let us know what you think about the, that Grasso Araujo live betting opportunity there. All right, after that, we got J Mart, Jonathan Martinez versus Cub Swanson. 2 exciting fighters here. J Mart has a tendency to kind of coast, kind of cruise to a victory with the jab. He's not really a great finisher, whereas, Cub Swanson is a tremendous finisher. Cub Swanson's 38 years old, and he's dropping down in weight here. And, if you're familiar with his physique, I don't know where he's going to find 10 pounds of water to cut. So I'm eager to see Cub on the scales Friday. I think it could hurt his durability, cutting down in this late stage of his career. A couple years ago, he had leg injuries and was really susceptible to low kick damage. J Mart's got great low kicks. So I think, with just his reach, his technical jab, his low kick, Martinez might be able to just coast to a decision here. That's my pick, is J Mart decision. All right, after that, we got Askar Askarov and Brandon Royval. Brandon Royval actually follows us on Instagram, and it's been an incredible streak of fighters who follow us who have not lost since following us. Ricky Simone's undefeated. Brandon Royval, Jeff Molina, Chase Sherman followed us and won his last fight. He's 1-0 since following us. It's like 30. Damon Jackson, I think, is 3-0 since following us. We love all those guys. Appreciate your support. And it's like incredibly good luck. Royval has the opportunity to extend that streak, become another underdog who's won. And I think he's got a good chance. I've always been a huge Askar fan. He's just got great ground game. Askarov is actually a really underrated striker, as many of you know, but he's not as known for it, partially because his name ends in a V and partially just because his grappling is really good. He's got great back takes. He floats on top and scrambles. He's a position over submission guy who also has nice submission abilities. He actually never gets outstruck until the Kai Kara-France fight. So just a really well-rounded fighter. He's beat Pantoja, who I'm a huge Pantoja fan. Pantoja is actually going to be the fill-in fighter for Figgy versus Moreno 4. So Askar is a stud. This is going to be a great matchup. Brandon Royval is just one of the most exciting fighters. He's kind of tough to predict. Sometimes he's losing the fight and then comes back and gets a finish. Other times he's winning and then something bad happens, an injury, or he gets finished himself. So his fights are always really back and forth. This is a tough one to predict. I think the submission ability for Royval, the explosiveness on the feet, the unpredictability. He's also got a significant height and reach edge here over Askarov. But Askarov's going to land some takedowns. I think the obvious play here is some sports books have a decision no bet and a finish no bet. So Royval, you'd want to bet on him on the decision equals no bet prop. That means if there's a finish, Royval can win. The only way to lose that bet would be is if Askar finishes Royval, which I don't think happens. So in that scenario, if the fight goes to a decision, the bet just voids. You get your money back. So you're just betting on a finish and expecting it to be Royval. And then on the other side of the coin, I think you can do the exact opposite with Askar. Finish equals no bet. So the only way to lose that bet is if Royval beats Askarov in a decision, which I wouldn't expect. So I think those are almost overly obvious and pretty chalky if you have access to those props. And if not, hit us up. We've got great sports books that work worldwide. They work with Cash App and Venmo and PayPal, and they've got all these fun props. So it's an exciting one. My official pick is Brandon Royval. Love the guy. I think he extends the streak of unbeaten fighters who follow our Instagram. And crazy as it sounds, it's like an incredible streak. Again, Chase Sherman busted all the parlays his last fight. All right, next we got Jordan Wright versus Duško Todorović. Two fighters with durability concerns. Jordan Wright is one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC because he's a finish or be finished fighter. None of his fights get out of the first round. Duško has the grappling edge here. Jordan Wright is big, and Jordan Wright does have decent takedown defense. I think he might be able to land some Travis Brown elbows here. If Duško strikes with him at distance for too long, it's just a poor decision. I think Duško needs to initiate the grappling early and often. Jordan Wright has had success with those Travis Brown elbows up against the cage as he's defending takedowns though, and that could be really impactful here. This fight's going to be the least likely fight to go to the distance, I must assume. So you want to target both of these guys in DFS if you play fantasy lineups. I think my official pick's Duško by getting the takedowns and getting the finish. A similar matchup in our next fight, Misha Cirkunov versus Alonzo Menifield. Misha had moved down to middleweight. Now he's moving back up to light heavyweight. He's actually got a 3-inch reach advantage here. 3-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach advantage over Alonzo. He's going to be the bigger guy here, and Misha's not scrawny. He's a full light heavyweight fighter, but Alonzo Menifield's just so strong, and Alonzo Menifield has 82% takedown defense throughout his UFC career. Alonzo kind of feels like an easy choice here, but it's just a sketchy one. Both these guys are a little bit hard to trust, but I think Alonzo's beaten the better competition. And I think he's going to be able to keep it standing and win the striking here. So I'm on Alonzo, probably by KO. Next fight, Martinez versus Brandon Davis. Brandon Davis, had a UFC career back in the day, was winning some fights on the regional scene. Now he's back. In his last fight against Dana Becquerel, he was hittable, but what's worse is that he was really reacting to every strike. It seemed like everything Dana landed on him had a big impact. He really needs to get a takedown here, but he's not necessarily known for going for takedowns. He's only got 45% takedown accuracy, and I think Martinez is gonna just coast to a victory here. Mana does have cardio concerns. He trains at Glory, which I'm a fan. Love James Krause, but sometimes these Glory fighters have lost as big favorites because of their poor cardio. David Onama, Gina Mazzani coming to mind. Mana's got those cardio concerns as well, especially when he has to wrestle, and he's got just 12% takedown defense. His defensive wrestling did look better last fight against Ronnie Lawrence. He's got good get-ups and sweeps, good transitions, but that poor takedown defense. So this is a tough one. I know a lot of folks are big on Mana. A lot of the Survivor Series picks are already picking Mana as their pick for this week, so they really need Mana to come through. I feel like this one's kind of sketchy. Mana KO will be the official pick. All right, the next one, Nick Maximov versus Jacob Malkoun. Similar style here, two wrestlers and grapplers. It's a tough one. I think Maximov can get it done. I think his striking is a tiny bit better. He's also bigger, and I think he's got the cardio edge. We saw Malkoun fade a tad in the last fight. His body language did not look good in that third round against Brendan Allen. I think Malkoun won that fight, but I can understand, you can't call it a robbery. So I think Maximov's got a slightly better cardio game. It's a really, really, really tough one. This fight I think definitely goes to decision. I think parlaying like an over 1.5, parlaying the fight to start round 2. Those are going to be incredibly chalky, like minus 700 or so. But I think those are safe parlay legs if you like parlaying those. Tough one, kind of a boring one, but also exciting for the future of the division because one of these guys can continue making waves. It also seems like the UFC wants Maximov to win, right? Like the UFC does not love Jacob Malkoun holding guys against the cage for 15 minutes. They like Nick Maximov, Nick Diaz Army. So this seems like you can't buy into the narrative piece too much, but the UFC does not want Jacob Malkoun to win this fight here. I think that's safe to say. So you would think that they'd be giving Maximov a matchup they think he can win. I'm going to lean Maximov. He's bigger, better cardio, and I think slightly better striking. It's a tough one. All right, Raphael Assunção versus Victor Henry. Victor Henry, was previously highly unimpressive on tape, and then he came in last fight and looked great against Jaime Barcelos. I feel like that's wrong. I think it's Jaime, yeah. And then Jaime looked incredible last fight against Trevin Jones. So that win continues to age even better for Victor Henry. Victor Henry was landing like 12 strikes per minute, just incredibly high volume. And Raphael Assunção has his volumes dropped off a cliff his last handful of fights. I think it's because of his durability concerns. He's been knocked out in his last 2, and then 3 fights ago he was club and sub. So you could almost he was almost knocked out in 3 straight fights. I think that durability issue has caused him to be really hesitant. I don't think Assunção has any path to victory here except for takedowns. He went 4 of 6 on takedowns against Corey Sandhagen, but he hasn't attempted one in his last 2 fights. And across his whole UFC career, he's just 38% takedown accuracy. I think Victor Henry is going to be able to keep it standing here. He's 2 inches bigger. Victor Henry's 35 years old as well. So both these guys are perhaps a tad past their prime, but Victor Henry just looks to be in a much better place in his career. I think Victor Henry is the safest of these big favorites this week. New fight announced, Joanderson Brito versus Lucas Alexander. I still got to look into that if I'm honest. On paper, Alexander's record and his resume is not impressive at all. Joanderson Brito's got some great UFC wins in his career, good wrestler, solid power in his hands. Brito seems pretty obvious, and it seems like the type of line you better get in on fast because it'll continue to move. But I'm going to watch Lucas Alexander tape tonight. All right, just 3 fights left. I really wish we can share the screen. We're going to figure it out for next time so I can show you all the fight tape, all the stats and everything we've got in here. Piera Rodriguez versus Sam Hughes. This is a tough one. I like Sam Hughes. I thought she was decent coming into the UFC. She came in against Tisha Torres on short notice and got finished in the first round there. I think we hit a plus 1,600 Tisha round 1 prop that night. But Sam's gritty, and she's shown some toughness since then. She's pretty hittable, but pretty durable. She moved to Fortis MMA a couple fights ago, and I'm a big fan of them. I personally think that Saif Saud is the best coach in MMA. Really love that guy. But she barely beat Estela Nunes. She was getting pieced up on the feet, and then she was able to land a couple takedowns. So none of her fights are incredibly impressive. Last fight against Elise Reed was a close fight. it's tough to get a read on her, but she is improving and becoming more well-rounded. Previously just a striker. She's got good cardio, good fight IQ. She showed good coachability. In that Estela Nunes fight, she was getting pieced up. The corner told her she had to go for takedowns, and then in round 2 and 3, she landed takedowns and won the fight. So you got to love to see that out of Sam. Piera also becoming more well-rounded. She's a forward pressure brawler who with good power in her hands. And her takedown defense and her get-ups against the cage are improving. She's not the most overly technical striker. She's kind of a brawler. She likes to leave her chin out a little too much, perhaps. She got a little tired on her Dana White Contender Series fight, but earlier in her career, she's gone 5 rounds before and shown fine cardio. So, it's highly possible that there's just an adrenaline dump or some nerves on that Contender Series fight, but she did look to slow down a tiny bit there. When she's striking, she can strike all day and not gas out. It's the grappling that can wear her out a little bit. And I think that Sam Hughes can employ some of that and wear her out. Piera did look to have improved wrestling in the Kay Hansen fight. Yes. But this just feels like a real close fight. I think it should be a pick 'em. I think a play on the underdog here could make some sense. Sam Hughes by decision. All right, CJ Vergara versus Tatsuro Taira. This is a great fight. I feel like this should be higher up on the card. Tatsuro, had a ton of hype coming in. I think he came from Shudo and another organization in Japan where those VTJ, those fighters have come over, and especially the wrestlers and grapplers, and their wrestling and grappling has not translated once they get to America, and they're fighting against these folks who had been wrestling, their whole life. Tatsuro seems to be a little bit better than other folks, that have come from those organizations, though. In the Candelario fight, he was able to control the fight, but it wasn't as dominant as a lot of folks thought for the big favorite that Tatsuro was. He went just 1 for 5 on takedowns against Candelario, but, good control time. He's got great back takes, including from standing position. He'll take your back standing. He loves to do that. The thing here, though, is that CJ Vergara has incredibly fast improving takedown defense. He's got good boxing, nice knees, good cardio and pace. He likes to throw heavy hooks. But it's the wrestling that's the key. On the regional scene, he was always getting taken down. He got submitted in the first minute one time. But in his last fight against Clayton Rodriguez, who's a stud, Clayton only went 2 for 7 on takedowns against him. Odie Osborne went 1 for 7 takedowns against him. And on his Contender Series fight, Bruno Correa went 0 for 1. So, across his last 3 fights, his opponents are 3 of 15. That's 20% takedown defense. So I feel like this is a really close fight. I think CJ Vergara busts some parlays this week, and I'm officially on the dog Vergara here. Full disclosure, I was on Candelario against Tatsuro as well, and Tatsuro got it done there. But as I mentioned, that fight looked a little closer than the line would indicate, and I think CJ can keep it standing here and win the striking. Tatsuro is not a terrible striker; his striking's improving big time, but I think CJ would win the striking for sure. Excited for that one. All right, and then the first fight on the card is Mike Jackson, the journalist who's 1-1-1 in MMA. He beat CM Punk, but then that fight was overturned for the Devil's Lettuce. So Mike Jackson was 0-1-1, but he got a win last fight against Dean Barry due to disqualification. Dean Barry was throwing that like spinning body kick, and it was landing low. Mike Jackson couldn't open his eyes, and then the second the fight was called, Mike Jackson's eyes were wide open. Sketchy. Not a fan of Mike Rodriguez. He does have a decent jab. He's got nice technical punches. He's got good head movement. He's an okay striker, and he's tall for the division. 6'2", 74-inch reach. Pete Rodriguez, came in on short notice last fight, and he looked pudgy. He looked undersized. You can't trust a guy who all of his wins are in round 1. I think this is a stay away. Pete Rodriguez should be able to get takedowns and get the finish on the ground. I think Pete Rodriguez submission might be a sneaky look because Pete Rodriguez KO is like minus 250. But I caution you against being too heavy on Pete Rodriguez. Mike Jackson is okay on the feet. He'll take a greasy win if he can, as we saw last fight. And, it just seems like a stay away. So All right. Again, sorry for got some comments in here. Appreciate you all being in here. Really sorry that we couldn't share our screen here, but hope those breakdowns were short, sweet, and helpful. All right. Appreciate you all. See you soon.